Today we are talking about NIKKOR 24-105 for f4 to 7.1. It's a lightweight but quite plasticky universal zoom for Nikon Z mount with 67mm filter thread, and I want to tell you the brutal truth about having such a setup like I have right here, which is 24-105 and Nikon Z5 Mark II. And does it really make sense to have this kind of setup? We are now in a very loud city, so we will probably change location to tell you everything about this lens, which is build quality, optical quality, and my recommendation. What would be the best setup if not 24-105? How does it stack against the competition? So stay with me until the end. Before we get into the optical quality of this lens, I want to share the story that I had regarding losing files, because I've been testing a lot of stuff for Nikon recently. Z5 Mark II long-term review, this 24-105 and 24-200mm lens, and copying all the files. Accidentally, I deleted files that I didn't copy before. And there where we come to our sponsor. This is software called EaseUs. EaseUs, I don't know how to pronounce it, but you have the logo here and the screenshots from the software. So they have contacted me, and this is a software, file recovery software that actually works really well. And if they didn't sponsor me, I would just basically buy this software because I used it before when I lost files. So whatever you work with, is it video or photography, one day, sooner or later, unfortunately, you may lose your files. Either the file, the card is corrupted, or file system is corrupted, or you drop your camera, or as me, in my case, you accidentally delete your files. You can use recovery software. What is important, you have link in the description below with special discount if you use my code. So just click the link below and you can get either subscription or lifetime lifetime ownership of this software. And this software actually really works, and you can get your files back. So coming back to our lens, first let's talk about build quality. Build quality of this lens is, let's face it, pretty plasticky. At one hand, it's lightweight and pretty compact for what it is, 24-105. But at the other hand, it is plastic. There's a plastic lens hood on the back, and everything works fine. I cannot complain. It's not, bad quality, but it's made of plastic. As you can see, this is the travel of this lens. When we switch from 24-105, there's a focus ring, there's a zoom ring that is pretty comfortable. Everything works fine. It's not great, but it's just okay. 67mm filter thread is very, very practical because this is very easy to buy, and filters for this lens won't be very expensive. As I said before, it's 4 to 7.1, so it's not the brightest lens out there. However, talking about build quality, that will be pretty much it. It's very hard to say anything else because there's no physical switch on this lens. Now let's talk about the most important thing, which is image quality. Image quality on this thing is just okay. Let's take a look at sharpness first. At 24mm in the center of the frame, sharpness is okay. In the corner, you can see there's a visible drop in sharpness and visible drop in contrast, and some purple fringing is creeping in. So taking this into consideration, corners are not the best, but the good side of it is that it's for f4.0. So you can stop it down to something like f5.6 and situation improves. In the middle of the focal range, something between 35 to 70, situation is a little better. The sharpness in the center is very good. In the corner, there's a drop, obviously, but you would expect this from lens, such a lightweight and pretty inexpensive basic lens like walking around zoom. At a 105 in the middle, in the center of the frame, the lens is a little soft for my taste, and in the corner a little softer, but still it's okay. The main problem here is that it's 7.1 at the end, and if you want to stop it down, you are stuck with something like f8.0 or 9. So if you want to shoot in low light, that might not be the best choice. So sharpness overall is just mediocre plus. When it comes to distortion, you have barrel distortion, pretty big barrel distortion, but pretty even without, you know, this mustache effect or wave effect. So it's easy to correct, in other words. Between 35 to 70 is pretty straight. I wouldn't, you know, mention anything about this geometry, and you can of course use built-in profile corrections or correction profiles. And at 105, obviously you have some pincushion distortion, but it's pretty easy to remove. So when it comes to geometry, I would say it's an average behavior of this type of lens. Now, when it comes to very important factors like working against harsh light, again, this lens performs just mediocre. So you can see flaring, you can see some drop of contrast, nothing dramatic, but something you would probably expect from this 24 to 105 universal zoom. There's nothing to, you know, brag about here, but there's nothing to be scared of. It's just okay. Stars are not the prettiest out there, so you can get some stars if you stop it down to something between f11 and f16, but the stars are not very well articulated, I would say. So if you want something that creates more of a starry effect, there are other zoom lenses that, in case of Nikon Z mount, perform better. Again, as I said, it's a brutal truth review about this lens, and I want to tell you something surprising at the end, if this is actually worth buying, because you can hear me complaining a little bit here, but you know, hear me out, okay? Now let's talk about focus breathing. This is very difficult for me to pronounce. So this is a good news. If you want to film with this lens, it's actually pretty okay. Focus breathing is visible, but it's not huge. It's well controlled, I would say. And actually, if you want to put this lens on a gimbal at 24 at 4 f4, you can actually make it quite interesting, you know, gimbal type of lens. Of course, if you have stabilized body and if you want some extra stabilization. But anyways, let's move forward. Close-up image quality is okay. There's a drop in sharpness, obviously, so I would recommend to maybe stick to something around 35, stop it down to something like f.6, and there's where this lens performs the best. Maybe even at 50, because 50 is a good focal length. At 105, you can get some blurry background, some nice bokeh, but you know, there's you gotta stop it down still, but if you stop it down from 7.1, you stop it down to something like 8 point something, you know what I'm talking about. You have to have good light conditions. Now, finally, bokeh is a very important thing. I didn't mention autofocus, but give me time. So bokeh is nice, it's okay. Something you would not expect to be super nice with this lens, but actually it surprised me in plus. So it's better than I expected, but obviously this is not a lens that you would normally use for high-end portrait sessions. Autofocus, I also tested autofocus, and it actually works okay. I'm not a huge fan of generally Nikon autofocus system. Sometimes it is easy to lose your shots if you don't have your settings specifically set for what you want to shoot. So my tip is, if you want to be very specific, use small point and, you know, joystick and select your focal point. Or if you are, let's say, planning to shoot humans, just select human as an object, though the camera can detect object. My experience is it's better to leave it at humans. And if you want to shoot birds, just switch to birds, and so on, because like this setup, autofocus wise, is fast, is reliable, but sometimes, you know, unpredictable. That's what I would say. So having said all that, you may think, oh, you don't want me to buy this lens. I mean, it's your decision, it's your call, but I complained a lot about this lens. There are good things about it. As I said, it's lightweight, and 24 to 105 is a very, very good focal range. But paired with modern camera like Z5 Mark II, that it's actually very, very nicely priced and very accessible. And if you buy these two guys, you can have a very interesting, modern, full frame setup that is very universal, nice to travel. If you have family, you don't want to, you know, switch lenses all the time, this thing actually can be a very good solution, specifically taking into consideration that you can turn this in-camera correction profiles that you can then in post-production sharpen a little bit, and you have a decent image quality, which you can see on sample images that I took with this actual setup. So still, I would recommend this lens, not as your dream lens that you want to shoot the sharpest images out there, or your super professional lens, but I think at the other hand, it's obvious it's not a high-end professional lens, but more of a fun walk around type of zoom. If you enjoyed my review, please leave comments below, thumbs up, subscribe obviously, and let me know if you like my shirt. Best that ever. My boys insisted me to put this shirt on for my next recording, so if you like my shirt, let me know about it, and don't forget about the discount code that you have for your recovery software. And thank you EaseUs for sponsoring this video, and I see you guys in the next one. Cheers.